I had to go to the post office yesterday, and while I was standing in line, I noticed a fellow over at one of the counters, and he was sticking stamps on a great big stack of pink envelopes that had little red hearts all over them. And then once he got all the stamps on there, he reached in his pocket and pulled out a little bottle, and he spritzed some Chanel No. 5 on each one of the envelopes. And so my curiosity got the better of me, and I said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm sending out 500 Valentine's Day cards signed Guess Who." I said, "But whatever for?" He said, "I'm a divorce lawyer." Well,
there's a marketing scheme.
Of course, this week we celebrate a day of love and even romance. And among our fundamental human needs, right up there with food and water and shelter, is the need to experience love. Babies who are not given loving attention fail to thrive. And as adults, a lack of love leads to serious emotional and physical problems. Now, unfortunately, books, movies, television, and pop music have created some rather unrealistic expectations of what love is, how it works, what it does, and who can have it. The idea that there is one person out there, one person out of all the billions of people on this planet who is the right person for you, and once found, you'll be complete. That idea is a total crock. You're either complete within yourself or you're not. No one out there has the power to do that for you. The idea that love is for the so-called beautiful people and no one else need apply is nonsense. Love, based on beauty, fades as soon as beauty fades. And the idea that you'll be more lovable if only you get this fashion or that hairstyle or grooming product or mouthwash or deodorant or cologne is ridiculous. If Axe body spray could produce the results seen on their commercials, this world would be a steaming cauldron of lust that would make the raciest romance novel seem tame. The fictionalized love, typified in movies, pop songs, and novels, is like those models on the cover of fashion magazines. They're illusions created by special lighting and makeup and Photoshop. They're an impossible ideal that make millions of people feel miserable because they can't even begin to measure up to that ideal. Likewise, the frantic search for romantic love, "Won't somebody please love me?" is pathetic. And it's off-putting to anyone who more or less has their act together. The pitiful, needy searcher for love is really looking for someone who will make him or herself all better. And that kind of person will likely attract someone else who's deeply emotionally flawed or dysfunctional, or another emotionally needy person, or a manipulative person who is looking for someone to control. I once saw a soap opera spoof titled Desperate Love, subtitled Is There Any Other Kind? And the search for love is desperate because it's all about getting, whereas true love is all about giving. And you can't give what you don't have, which means that if we don't love ourselves, we have no love to give to others. And likewise, if we don't love ourselves, no one else can love us enough to make up for that. So why do we seek validation, acceptance, and acknowledgement from others? Well, probably because we're trying to make others responsible for our well-being. It seems to be human nature to seek approval or love outside of ourselves. But the key is to be aware that that's what we're doing, seeking love outside of ourselves. And once we're aware, we can start to look inside ourselves and cultivate love and acceptance of ourselves. If you were to ask a psychologist, what is at the root of most people's problems, the response would probably include that many people, if not most, lack the capacity for self-love. What exactly is self-love? How do you achieve it? And what would having it mean in your life? Well, self-love is acceptance of who you are just as you are, including the aspects you call good and the aspects you call bad. The higher your self-esteem, the more good you experience. The lower your self-esteem, the higher the percentage of bad stuff that you'll attract into your life. We can't rely on others for our sense of self-worth. And most of the time, if we don't value ourselves, it's because we're looking to others. Every person on this planet has something I don't, is something I'm not, or can do something I can't or won't. And if I put my focus on what they have, I'm really using them as a yardstick, which proves that I don't measure up. Most of the time, when we think we're self-conscious, we're really others-conscious. We're worried that we aren't as good as they are, and we're terrified of what they'll think of us. So it's all about self-respect and self-empowerment. It's about self-care and looking after yourself and having compassion for yourself when you're going through a hard time. It's about honoring your heart's desires and being true to yourself. And it's about knowing deep down inside that you matter and that you are enough just as you are. You have nothing to prove. You just need to be yourself and give of yourself to others. And most of all, it's about knowing who and what you really are, a unique expression of spirit, in possession of every quality of the divine. You hear the word namaste around here frequently. It's Sanskrit for the divine in me recognizes the divine in you. And that's a great thing, but we can only really mean it when we love ourselves. Before the divine in me can recognize the divine in you, I have got to recognize the divine in me. When you love yourself, you're not putting yourself down. You're not being critical of yourself. You're not telling yourself you're no good, unlovable, untalented, or any other self-defeating statements. Imagine a world where everyone loved themselves for who they are. It would be a world full of people resonating love from their hearts, and their state of being would be love. If the people of the world loved themselves more, they would love each other more. The more you love yourself, the more you love everyone else. There's no greater power than love. Love is pure and decent, innocent, and true. Love can heal the world. But millions of people are living with the pain of loneliness and neglect, and millions more are afraid that someday they'll find themselves alone and unloved. But the fact is, love is available everywhere and in infinite variety. So how do we get love? Well, remember the Jesus saying, as you give, so shall you receive. And in no other aspect of life is this truer than in the area of love. The fact is, we can only have love by giving it away. And the more freely we give love, the more love we have. So Ernest Holmes, writing in the Science of Mind textbook, says, the one who has learned to love all people will find plenty of people who will return that love. Until we learn to love, we are not sending out love vibrations. And not until we send out those vibrations can we receive love in return. Love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. Notice what he says, until we learn to love. We are not sending out love vibrations. So notice that real love involves a learning curve, just like anything else. You learn to speak by speaking, you learn to study by studying, you learn to run by running, you learn to work by working, and in the same way you learn to love by loving. You can learn to love just as you can learn to hate. There's a song from the musical South Pacific which includes these lines. You've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drummed in your dear little ear. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late, before you're 6 or 7 or 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught. Well, it's true that others can teach us to hate, but really no one can teach us to love. Others can tell us what love is. Others can show us what love is like, but we have to teach ourselves to love. The good news is that in learning to love ourselves, we are acquiring the skill set we need to love others. When we love others, we don't berate them when they do something silly or stupid. We don't beat them up when they fall short of our expectations. We can forgive them for things they did or didn't do. We are compassionate with them, and we always remember that they are better than the best vision they have yet had of themselves. Are you detecting a pattern here? If this all sounds familiar, it should. Real love involves loving others as we love ourselves. Real love sees the potential, the infinite potential, in each one of us. As Sam Keen put it, we come to love not by finding a perfect person, but by learning to see an imperfect person perfectly. Since we're all unique manifestations of God, when we love anyone, what we're really doing is seeing them as they really are, a center of divine life. Divine is God. God is good. And good is worth loving. Does that take work? Absolutely. As Ursula Le Guin put it, love doesn't sit there like a stone. It has to be made like bread, remade all the time, made new. So love is not just something you feel. It is something you do. It is an intention. Love is a decision, not just an emotion. And once we decide to love, God will show us how. So we ask, how do I go about loving everyone? After all, there's a whole lot of everyone out there, and we're not always too thrilled with an awful lot of the everyones we meet. Oh, it's easy to love people we like, but what about the rest of humanity? Well, if we've made the decision to love, that suggests that there is something we need to do, which means that God will show us how to do it. Or perhaps we could sit around waiting to be illumined by a great celestial light, but we might be waiting a long time for that to happen. So what do we do in the meantime? Well, I think there's a fairly simple answer. Whenever we find ourselves wondering what to do in response to a challenge, we can ask ourselves, what would love do? What would love do? The question is so simple. Its simplicity gets to the heart of choice, a choice that taps into the basis of human care and commitment for another person's well-being, a choice that allows love to lead the way into what might happen next, a choice where if love is leading the way, what it looks like or sounds like can make all the difference in the world. Love is the game changer. Love sets our intentions to a place of goodwill for others and enables us to be fully present for whatever may be needed or wanted in the moment. Love safely allows for exploration and discovery, and it deepens the capacity to change and to learn, even during the most difficult times. So, I'm faced with a difficult decision. What would love do? I'm in conflict with another person. What would love do? I anticipate a difficult conversation with someone. What would love do? I want to coach my team to take more initiative. What would love do? I'm surrounded by hatred and language that tears down rather than builds up. What would love do? Living by love gives us opportunities to grow. And when we're focused on the other person, shifting attention away from ourselves and our selfish little egos, we can learn from the other person's perspective, from how they see the world. What opportunities do we have to allow love to guide our lives within our families, our communities, our organizations, within our world? Take a moment right now. Maybe even close your eyes. Just take a moment and think of a challenging or difficult aspect of your life. What's going on? And how do you feel about this situation or relationship? More specifically, what kinds of questions are you asking yourself about this? The quality of the answers we receive is directly related to the quality of the questions we ask. Ask yourself, what would love do? It may be a difficult question for you to ask about this specific situation or relationship. Allow yourself to hang out in this powerful question and see what shows up. You may have a lot of ideas or insights, or not. But asking yourself this question will almost certainly give you a deeper awareness of what you could do if you allowed love to lead the way. Allow yourself to consider this question long enough that you really feel it in your soul. And then take bold and loving action based on your answer to this question. The paradox here is that it's not so much about what you do, it's more about where it comes from. If it truly comes from a deep place of love within you, you'll know it, feel it, and it will be the right thing to do. Trust yourself and your heart, and then be willing to take the risk and put yourself out there. It's difficult to do a talk on divine love without referencing 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is perhaps the most beautiful discourse ever written on real love. It came from the pen of the Apostle Paul, who could be a bit of a crank sometimes. But I think he certainly nailed this one. He wrote, "Now I will show you the most excellent way. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. And so, these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. I can't match Paul's eloquence, but I've taken the liberty of paraphrasing this in contemporary language. God's love for me, and therefore my love for others, extends to everyone. Love understands and is compassionate toward all the weakness, ignorance, errors, and infirmities of the children of God. Love forgives all the malice and hurtful behavior of the people of this world, not just sometimes, but always. Because of divine love, I can be wronged without feeling the need to retaliate, and I can show kindness and goodness to those who have wronged me. If I find someone with more than I have, divine love is not envious. I understand that each one of us has what we have by right of consciousness. If I have divine love, I do not see myself in competition with others, but as God sees me, perfect, whole, and complete. I am not unhappy when others succeed. I am not happy when others fail. Divine love causes me to be happy when others rejoice, and supportive when others mourn. Divine love is not vain. I cannot have divine love and brag about who I am and what I have done. Likewise, I cannot have divine love and denigrate myself. Divine love knows that without God I can do nothing, but that with God I can do everything. Divine love wants the highest and best for everyone and does not demand its own way. When I am living in divine love, I cannot be rude, hateful, vicious, or holier than thou. Divine love rejoices in the truth, seeks the truth, demands the truth. Divine love bears up under all things and continues to have faith that all is well. It endures all kinds of adversity and emerges victorious. Divine love never fails, is never suspended, is never taken away, is never exhausted. Every situation, every structure, every system in my world will collapse after a time, but divine love will always prevail. That's real love. Love that lasts, love that fulfills. It starts as a decision, and it results in action, care, and attention. Real love is the highest achievement to which we can aspire. Love is indeed the one indispensable ingredient in life. Raymond Charles Barker even suggested that without love, spiritual mind treatment is worthless. He wrote, "When you do your daily treatment work, be sure that you have a consciousness of love. If you try to do it when you're in a negative, unpleasant mental attitude, you will get no results, and you will have wasted your time. If you have only 10 minutes to treat and you're not in a good mood, then take 9.5 minutes treating your consciousness for love, and take the last half minute on your problem. It is the state of your consciousness, not the language or the vocabulary, which determines the efficacy of the treatment. The atmosphere of successful treatment is love." Are you looking for love? Remember that God is love, and God is expressing as each one of us. So it's kind of silly to go looking for love, because love is inside of each of us, just waiting for us to cultivate it and share it. Think about this quote from rocket scientist Werner Erhard. "You don't have to go looking for love. when it's where you came from. One of my ministerial colleagues, Noel McGinnis, wrote a beautiful piece for couples who were renewing their wedding vows. But as I read it, I realized that it's much more than just that. It is an appropriate sentiment for any two or more people on the face of the earth. And as such, I can think of no better way to wrap up today's talk. May the stream of my love, in all its depth and fullness, flow unceasingly from me to thee. May no winds of impatience blow upon its waters. May no ripple of unkindness mar its surface. May no storm of hostility disturb its depths. May no sediment of deception choke its course. May the joy I share with you be unrestrained. May my sorrow with you know no bitterness. And may the streams of both our lovings be absorbed in the never-ending ocean of God's grace. The divine love in me is the divine love in you. Namaste.